Welcome to Strip Talking, a podcast from stripwalking.com.
God, this podcast sucks.
So do you know what the pirate's favorite letter is?
R.
They really love the C.
Shut the fuck up.
Never dealt with a stick that long.
Wouldn't the two circles represent tits?
Geoff is not, and I'm speaking myself in third person, I am not technologically advanced at all.
Did you have a fear boner?
It was probably the biggest fear boner I've had in quite some time.
Did you just say fear boner and your mom's gonna listen to this?
Here are your hosts, Geoff with a G and Mike with a...
Welcome to Strip Talking. I'm Geoff, here tonight with Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Fantastic, Geoff.
That's better than just regular fantastic, I guess.
It is.
It is. And, you know, I assume that you're that amped up because it is our very first episode of Strip Talking.
I am so excited. Are people watching us right now, Geoff?
No, they're not, but I have to see you.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mike's mom. Oh, yeah. Speaking of moms, you know, we're pretty excited to get this podcast started. And as we were discussing what kind of audience that we were going to cater to, we figured that we should probably first consider who our regular consumers of our content were going to be. And we both agreed that probably the top two people were probably going to be Mike's mom and my mom. So hi, Mom, and Mike's mom.
I already said hi to your mom last night.
Oh my God. And so that's the end of our first episode and last episode of Strip Talking. Thank you for listening. God.
Oh, was I? You said nobody was watching, Geoff.
I did say they weren't listening. That was pretty funny, though. Not even gonna lie.
It's not always about you, Geoff.
Oh, it is about me, Mike. It's all about me. I figured that I would be the polar opposite to your lack of enthusiasm.
Well, you do say absolutely a lot, so might as well get that out of the way early.
That's right. We need to make sure that everybody that listens to this podcast will understand that they will absolutely love it.
You should have followed that up with a "that's fair."
I should have, but I didn't.
Well, that's fair.
Well, that's fair. So very first episode of Strip Talking, brought to you by the creators of stripwalking.com.
Who's that?
That would be you and partially me.
I wasn't even trying to get a you. I was just trying to get us. But you're right. I guess it was me, wasn't it?
It was you, for the most part.
I mean, you did walk some.
I did do some walking and some filming.
A mile or two.
The blisters on my feet at the time said otherwise, but that's okay.
You texted me so many whiny texts. My feet hurt.
That's because you were sitting at home. But anyway, yes. So we are taking the knowledge and some of the funny tales that we have accumulated while we put together the stripwalking.com website, along with the interactions and connections that we have made during our time within the Vegas social media community to bring you...
And just our general awesomeness.
Well, there's that too. As you get to know us, you'll find out that Mike is extraordinarily humble. That's probably the only thing you'll ever hear from him, tooting his own horn. Or our horn.
Not yours.
Not mine. I don't want you tooting my horn. Anyway, so we decided to come up with this podcast, and it is going to be mostly Vegas centric. However, we know that not everybody loves Vegas in the same fashion that we do, and that there are a lot of other travel opportunities around the country that people might be interested in. And so we're going to combine some of those Vegas experiences with some outside experiences that we've had. Does that sound fair, Mike?
Yes.
And when I say that, I'm not trying to make Mike talk too much, because there are certain experiences that it has been Mike alone or with his family on that I have no experience. So he's going to have to talk a lot more when we get to some of those particular situations. But
Just trying to stay humble, Geoff.
I know. And the thing is, though, too, when we start talking about some of these other experiences that we have had, we can also kind of expand upon Mike's knowledge of travel points and credit card loyalty programs that can facilitate travel to various places. Would you agree with that statement, Mike?
I mean, you're making it sound like it's all me, Geoff.
Well, I figured I better say it before you had a chance to.
You're making me sound like an arrogant asshole.
You're not. He's not. All the people that are listening, all two of you. Mike is not Mike is not arrogant. He is one of the
kind of him. I can be. But I mean, don't sell yourself short. You've been lots of places too, like Atlanta, Nebraska.
Yes. Don't forget Atlanta, Nebraska. Sparks, Warrens, Nebraska. We are Vegas fanatics that live in the central part of Nebraska. And before we get all the jokes, well, what else is there to do in Nebraska? Yeah, you're pretty much right. But
there's nothing.
There is more than nothing.
There's birds. There's a shit ton of birds here right now.
Yes. For all of you ornithologists, right now is the Sandhills crane migration across the central part of the state in the Platte River. Jane Goodall actually showed up here a long time ago.
Who's that?
I was just going to say, do you know who Jane Goodall is, Michael?
Not a fucking clue. I notice I say fucking a lot.
That is also true. That is also true.
And I really, it's a pain in the ass to beep it every time on the recording, so I got to say it less, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Or when I'm editing it, I could just cut it out.
Right. Remember at the beginning when you were actually going to edit it?
Yeah, no.
Good times.
Those were good times. But anyway, I think one of the things we ought to do, Mike, is just for those people that have stumbled across this awesome podcast without having any previous exposure to us, I think we need to give them just a brief
Whoa. Nobody's exposing anything.
Okay. Have not seen our website or come into contact with the content that we provide. How about that?
That is mostly the entire world has not come into contact with our website.
It's also true. So we're hoping that changes. So what we wanted to do when we came up with the website was to provide a way for the users to navigate initially the Las Vegas Strip. It was just mainly the Strip that we were worried about.
Well, our name is Strip Walking.
Yes. And Mike, I know this will be a shock to everybody that Mike was the one that came up with that name. As well as the fact that Mike came up with Strip Talking. So he's pretty much does all of this. But anyway, so what stripwalking.com is a website that allows you to navigate the paths along the Las Vegas Strip into and out of casinos. You are allowed to choose the starting and ending point, and it shows you the quickest way to get there, and it is accompanied by point of view videos, which we have actually taken ourselves. Is there any better way to describe it, Mike?
That was fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely. But I like to say it is Google Street Maps with videos.
That might have been the more succinct way of saying it. So say you wanted to get from the front door of Bellagio and find the quickest path to MGM Grand, to the Garden Arena. The website will give you the actual distance as well as the amount of time it should take you to walk it with the actual map drawn out. There are streaming videos that you can walk right along with it, so you see exactly where you're at.
I think you're waiting for a sarcastic comment, but I've got none.
I was.
I mean, I had some, but I thought,
not this time.
I'm going to turn over a new leaf. Starting now, I'm going to make no more sarcastic comments the rest of the podcast.
Well, that's not going to make the podcast be very exciting. I'm counting on you for sarcasm and snark.
Nobody came here for that.
They will. It's kind of like the Field of Dreams. If Mike says it, they will come.
They came to the Field of Dreams for sarcasm and snark.
Well, yeah. Haven't you ever seen that movie? His brother-in-law was pretty fucking snarky.
Is that the one where the aliens came out of the field?
Mm-hmm. It was. And there were crop circles.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know which one I'm talking about. But anyway.
I got a good story about that real quick. I
read the Bible with
my wife for the first time to that movie.
To Signs?
Yeah.
Or The Field of Dreams?
One of those two. I'm not so certain she's never told that story to somebody herself. So it's all fair. As you like to say, it's all fair in love and war.
Yes, that's also true. I like to have a lot of statements that say something about fair.
That's fair.
That's fair. So as we have developed this site and gotten it online and gotten feedback from different people that have used it.
Is gotten proper English there?
Probably not.
Since my mother is one of the people listening, I don't think she's going to approve of your trashing the English language. She used to always tell us ain't a word.
I ain't gonna listen to it. Since we launched the website and started to get feedback, one of the things that we were told from one of Mike's friends was that using our website is like being able to travel before you travel. This particular website allows you, before you even set foot in Las Vegas, to decide how you want to go from one place to the next. If nothing else, it is almost like it's built-in hype video for Las Vegas.
Okay, settle down. It's not that fantastic.
Okay. All right. Everybody says that they love to go to Vegas to people watch. Well, our site allows you to people watch without having to go to Vegas. The Strip Talking name for our podcast was kind of a, as Mike likes to call it, a shower type thought. But we're not sure if that's what the name of the podcast should be going forward. We're trying to bat around some different names.
That was actually a shitter thought.
That was a shitter thought. Oh my God.
I thought that might not be a terrible name. Shitter Thoughts Podcast.
Shitter Thoughts Podcast. It doesn't really tell you what we're talking about because we're not going to talk about sitting on the toilet a lot.
No, but a lot of our thoughts, that's where they're going to come from.
That's a possibility. I would say that's a possibility.
I made a list. I mean, Strip Talking is good because I thought of it.
Don't you love how humble he is, guys?
You want to hear some of the others?
Yes, let's hear some of the others that you'd come across.
Are you sure?
Yes, of course. Mike, we're here to serve your needs.
What about the studio audience? Do you want to hear some? Okay, 361 Vegas Podcast.
And where would that come from?
Well, I mean, we're just be a little bit better than the 360 Vegas Podcast.
A little bit better. Well, I'm not stepping in the middle of that one.
I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Their podcast is way better, guys. So go check it out. 360vegaspodcast.com.
Mark, Karen, and Tony, and sometimes Josh. Very good. Very good people.
Or 720 Vegas Podcast. Twice as good.
Doubling up.
No?
I'm going to say no on that one.
Okay. Vegas Vices and More Podcast.
I don't know if Vegas Vice would really love that idea. I think he might feel like we're ripping off his name.
Okay. We both like the band Tool, right?
Yes, we do.
Two Tools Who Like Tool Podcast.
I don't mind the name, but I'm not sure it really tells people what we're doing.
You can't describe this awesomeness in 4 or 5 words, Geoff.
That's also a valid point.
How about Dimes for Vegas Podcast?
Dimes for Vegas? The number 4? That also seems slightly like we're ripping off somebody else.
Ooh, Geoff. I just came up with it off the top of my head.
Off the top of your head. There's nothing anywhere coin related.
Did I just say off the top of my heads?
You did say the top of your head. I am looking at him, and now that I squint, yep, still just one head.
Yep. Yes, there's Pennies for Vegas. Another excellent YouTube channel, Twitter account.
Yep, I would agree.
So I suppose Quarters for Vegas is also out.
I'm guessing so. Yep, I'm gonna say so.
How about the Taylor Swift podcast?
Something tells me we might be getting a call saying cease and desist on that one. Something about intellectual property or something along those lines.
What if my name is Taylor Swift? What if you change your name to Taylor Swift?
Well, then that would be interesting. Not gonna.
Did you know there's a guy in Nebraska that legally changed his name to T-Rex?
I have heard that actually.
It's true. Or maybe it was Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Crazy.
Good story.
Crazy. Good story.
So this one's good. Vegas Crap Podcast.
I get it. Where you're coming from. Many uses of crap and Vegas. Still not sure. Still not sold. I have to be honest with you, Mike. I'm still leaning towards strip talking at this point.
How about crap walking?
Crap walking. I think we're going down the wrong road here.
No?
No, probably not.
That Vegas Life?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, a bunch of these names are very, very much takes on friends that we have met through social media of the Las Vegas community. Reggie with that casino life. Pennies for Vegas.
I didn't even think of that connection.
You really didn't? Yeah, right.
So that strip life is probably out then too.
Probably, I'm guessing so.
Reggie's YouTube channel, that's good stuff.
It is good stuff.
That Casino Life. Crap Vegas is also podcast.
Yep. That was the first Vegas podcast I got into was Crap Vegas with Josh and Chris.
Unfortunate People podcast.
Or is that describing us or the people that listen to us?
That's the beauty of it. It's both.
I think that might be the people that are forced to listen to us.
How about, okay, this is nuance, but it's funny. A dumbass and a Mike, M-I-K-E.
It is nuanced and it is funny.
Do you know what nuance means, dumbass?
Pretty sure I do. It's catching that little underlying meaning. Smart ass. God.
I mean, that one's pretty good, isn't it?
That is pretty funny.
So we'll go with that one.
Okay, we'll consider it.
Okay. Strip Confessions podcast.
Strip Confessions. Again, that sounds awful lot like somebody else that we know.
What?
Julian, don't take any offense.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Also a good podcast. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Podcast, YouTube channel.
Yeah, he's got multiple.
How about Vital Walking podcast?
Vital walking. Are we taking our vitals while we're walking? Are we emphasizing the importance of exercise?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, no.
They say, find somebody that's popular and emulate them. That's how you get big. I mean, Vital Vegas, he's top dog, so Vital Walking.
Yeah, there you go.
Sure you wouldn't mind.
I doubt he would.
You ask him.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that.
Nebraska Neanderthals podcast.
I like the direction of it.
Just the Tips podcast.
No.
We're providing tips about Vegas.
Yeah.
So we're just providing the tips. What's wrong with that? I've got like 5 more, 6 more.
Okay, what else you got?
I told you roll a podcast earlier.
Yeah, and I like that one.
The Dealer and the Dick podcast. See, that one's on me.
Yeah, I got it.
You're the dealer.
Yeah, I got it.
We Don't Know Shit podcast.
Well, that's also true.
The Degenerate Dummies.
Yeah.
Smooth Stick Handling podcast.
Smooth stick handling.
Smooth, not long.
Yeah, I got it.
And Geoff and Mike Have Issues podcast was the last one.
That might be the most important one or most valid one.
Definitely the most accurate.
Yeah.
There's some pretty good ones in there.
Not too bad. I don't disagree.
What's your favorite?
Probably strip talking.
You fucker.
So for those of you who don't know, I have recently started dealing at a new local casino in our area. I started out dealing blackjack and then moved to Ultimate Texas Hold'em. And now I have moved into dealing craps, which I would say from a dealer standpoint, some might consider it to be one of the top games to get to deal on the floor. A lot goes into it. But yeah, so I got to deal craps last night.
I heard it's really easy.
Yeah, you're right. It is super, super easy. No math at all. You don't even really have to pay attention.
Basically, a trained monkey could do it.
Pretty much. I'm surprised that they don't have those automated dealers for that as well. What makes it even easier is when you're dealing and there's a roll of the dice and you're going to pay out the winning bets, and everybody starts throwing their chips into you all at one time for their new bet, and you have to remember what comes from where and who wanted what. That's awesome.
Yeah, that would suck, wouldn't it?
It's just one of those things you kind of learn how to categorize or compartmentalize who's throwing what where, and learn where they're standing. It's still a lot of fun. It's hard to describe it until you've done it, but it's still a lot of fun.
Yep, I'm not going to do it.
Dealing, I don't think, would be your forte. Not from the standpoint that you couldn't do the procedural part of it, but I don't think it would be your favorite thing to do.
Not craps.
True.
Crack, maybe. Cocaine.
Crack. Weed.
I'd be a fun weed dealer. Don't you think?
I think so.
My backpack. Hey man, you want some weed?
I think you'd be very good at that.
So you got to do craps again, right?
Yep, I did get to do craps again. It was a weird rotation. It wasn't just craps. I did craps in Ultimate Texas Hold'em, but mainly craps. So it was exciting. I'll tell you what, it was better than the first time. I was much more relaxed, except for a couple little hiccups here and there.
How was your stick handling?
Better than ever, Mike. You know what they say, the more practice you have at it, that you'll go blind. Isn't there something about that?
Yes. If you masturbate, you could go blind.
That's what I thought it was.
My mom told me that. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mike's mom. So from this point on, we're going to refer to Mike's mom as Deborah.
Deborah.
I don't know.
What's your mom then?
Gloria.
That's too close to glory hole.
Oh my God, I wasn't going there.
Of course you were.
I'm a little concerned with some of the things you talked me into saying here, or lead me into saying.
Yeah, well, it's not like you'll be editing it, so.
I know. So anyway, yeah, so I dealt craps last night.
So you were more comfortable with the long stick, is what you're saying.
When you're not used to wielding it, it takes a little while to get comfortable with it. Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
The one thing that the other dealers told me is that you got to be not afraid to bend it. It won't break, is what they say. That right there is podcast gold.
Yes, we should have just made a whole list of dick jokes. Just spent like 20 minutes making dick jokes.
I'm pretty sure that we don't even need to limit it to 20 minutes. I bet we could do a whole podcast on it. Yeah. Anyway, craps it was. Actually, it went pretty well for the most part. Couple hiccups, and I'm still not 100% sure. And I'm not criticizing anybody here, but what happened in this particular instance was we had a player that rolled a 7 and 7'd out. So that means, of course, that their roll had ended and the majority of the people on the table lost. So as we're gathering up chips to clean up the table to start the next roll, we had one player that said they wanted to color up. Now, coloring up is a term, basically, that means somebody wants to take all the chips that they have and turn them into a smaller number of chips, but of larger value. Again, the chips all are colored based on how much they're worth. $1 chips are white, $5 chips are red, greens are 25, so on and so forth.
And you color up to consolidate your chips so you don't have so many chips to carry back to the cashier, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So you're taking a large quantity of chips or a larger quantity of chips and turning them into a smaller number but of higher value. And so anyway, one of the gentlemen wanted to stop playing because he was done. So he asked to color up. So he put his chips on the table and said he wanted to color up. So the process that the dealers then go through is they announce color coming in, meaning these chips are coming in to be exchanged for larger denomination chips. At that point, we usually wait for the floor supervisor, in this case, the box person, to say, bring that in. And then they go through the process. And in a craps game, they go through the process of figuring out how many chips or how much value there is in those chips. And then they would tell the dealer how much to pay out to the player. So anyway, I brought those chips in and I set them in front of the box person. Sorry, stuttered there, in front of the box person. And because he said to bring it in, set it in front of him. And then I went about the process of cleaning up any chips that had not been cleaned up from the previous roll. Well, once I got done cleaning up, I looked over and I looked at him, and there was no stack of chips. He didn't have any idea. I was like waiting for him to tell me how much to pay out for the player. And he just had kind of a blank look. I was like, well, those chips were to be colored up.
The casino just absorbed this guy's money, basically.
Right, because he put all the chips that were the players in with the bank of chips, or the bank is what they call it, and there's just stacks and stacks and stacks of chips. They all look alike. And so then the next thing is, oh shit, how do we know without going to the cameras, which we could have, but that would have taken a long time, and slowed the game down, and that's the last thing the casino wants to do. And so again, it was a mistake, probably more on my part than anything. I spoke with the box man after, outside of the game later on, and he said it was a miscommunication and that this is the process that we need to do moving forward. And so, yeah, it kind of sucked, but it definitely a learning experience. And I am 100% positive that situation and that scenario will not happen again for me, because I will make sure.
So how did you know how much he had then?
So the box is super experienced, and that's what was even more weird about it, is that especially what was coming in, it was a fairly large stack of reds with like 150 green, so we had nickels and quarters, that he didn't question it because there wasn't that much action out on the table on that at that time. So like I said, it was kind of it was a two-way street. And again, I need to do better on my end to make sure that it doesn't happen again. But yeah, then the player was watching and didn't say anything when he didn't break. I mean, because normally the box or the dealer, if you're on a table, regular table game, will break down the stacks to make sure they've got the right amount of money. And if he just grabbed them and pulled them into the bank, I can't believe the player didn't say something earlier. But
I mean, so did you go to the camera to figure out?
So no, we in this situation, he actually the box. What I was trying to get at there, the box actually kind of remembered. He's like, oh, I was one short of a full stack on the reds. He goes, I had this, and this, and so we were able to piece it back together. And I think he ended up overpaying him coming back out with it, just because we didn't want to stop the game, because we could have called the cameras. It would have stopped the game. But he kind of came to an agreement with what the player, thought he should have roughly, and actually kind of overpaid, I think.
That's coming out of your check.
Probably. And that's the thing that sucks about it too, is obviously I don't anticipate it coming out of the checks, but it just, you just want to be accurate. I mean, that's the thing. Obviously we want to be quick, but you want to be accurate. And that's probably what bothered me more than anything else. So I guess we'll go with it and learn from it and go on to another day of it. I'm supposed to deal it again today, so.
But it's still everything you hoped it would be.
Oh, it's fun. Of the table games that I dealt, is definitely the most intense, the most exciting, the most social for the most part, because you get to talk to the players. Whereas on a table game, you can talk to them, but just depending on the dynamic of the table, sometimes people don't want to talk. Sometimes they just don't talk. and then other times you don't want to talk because maybe there's a jerk on the table that is just. And I had that last night in the Texas Hold'em table too. So I don't know. It just so craps from a player standpoint and from a dealer standpoint, it's just much more of a social game than some of the others, I would say.
Tell us about the Texas Hold'em jerk.
so so this is an interesting story, and it kind of happened. We're our rotation where we were only on the Texas Hold'em table for 20 to 30 minutes at a time. Lots of stuff happens in between those times that you're there, so you don't always know the whole story of what's going on. But anyway, I rotated to that table, and one of my players, there were a couple of my favorite players sitting on first and third base, and they'd been there the whole night. Well, this guy came up there, and he's fairly regular. I see him at the casino quite a bit. But anyway, he was all kinds of agitated, kind of chirping at the guy that was at my first base, who was like, if not my favorite player, one of my favorite players at the casino. And he was chirping at him, pointing at things, kind of saying stuff, and obviously I didn't understand it. Well, he kept getting up, like if there was a delay, like somebody buying in or we coloring something up, he'd get up and he'd walk over to the roulette table, which is right adjacent to the Texas Hold'em table there at our casino. But he'd leave his chips there, which, okay, whatever. If you got a long delay, I could see something like that, but he just kept doing it. And then the gal that was sitting in third base, she was like, just pick a table. If you want to play this, fine. If you want to play roulette, fine, but don't keep going back and forth. You keep kind of slowing the game down and whatever. So anyway, he finally comes back, and in between there, he had gotten confronted by security, and I don't know the whole story with that because it happened while I wasn't on the table. But so he comes back and he sits down finally, and we're dealing out. I deal out a hand, get myself dealt, flop everything. I do the flop, do the river, and everybody bets. I go and I turn my two cards over, and on the board there's a 5 and a 2 and 3 other cards. Anyway, on my hand I have a 5 and a 2, so I have two pairs. So I'm going around looking at everybody's cards, and he has a 5, and so he had a pair of 5s. And when I go to take his money, he's like, no, 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 no. He goes, and he's pointing, and I was like, yes, but I have two pair, and I pointed my two pair and his just one pair, and he still doesn't understand. And so I'm explaining it. He's like, no inglés, no inglés. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to communicate that I have two 5s and two 2s to his two 5s or pair of 5s. And so I'm trying to, in Spanish, a little Spanish I know, use that to explain it to him. And he looks at me, then he goes, I can understand English. I'm like, what the hell then? You're just being an ass just to be an ass about it? And he kept putting his drink on the table, and I had to keep telling him, sir, you need to put your drink in the, and he was acting disgusted that I was doing that. And I'm like, God, you're just being kind of an asshole today.
Is it fair to say you run into at least one asshole a night?
Probably.
And yet you still think this is fun?
It's okay. So I say this about my normal job, and I'll say it about the casino job. You are going to run, it's people. You're dealing with people, and people in general can be not very nice, especially in this type of a setting. And yes, the ones that are not friendly or not pleasant to deal with can give you a bad taste in your mouth, but the good ones make it worth it. And like I said, I had the two really good ones sitting on opposite sides of the table. They're so much fun. And so, yeah, it's one of those take it with a grain of salt things, but it does stick in your mind when you have people like that do stuff.
Hopefully makes for a good podcast.
Maybe people will find it interesting. Or they'll ask the same question that you just asked and said, so you run into a jerk every night, you still like doing it?
I run into a jerk every day. And if people from work listen to this, they can have fun figuring out which one that is.
I'll let them figure that that mystery out.
We'll be cutting this out. They know who it is.
Yeah, well, I'm sure.
It's me.
I was gonna say, was it looking in the mirror?
So when I go to the bathroom, yeah.
Well, hopefully you're not going to the bathroom in the sink, because I've never seen never seen mirrors above a toilet.
Okay, we'll move on.
Okay, moving on.
I may have gone to the bathroom in the sink before. Not at work. As far as the people I work with know.
I was just gonna say that they know of.
Are your favorite people the people that tip the most?
Not always. We do have some very, very good tippers that come in, and they're very fun to deal with, to deal to, because in general, whether they're winning or losing, they don't base their tipping on whether they've won or lost. That's probably one of my pet peeves about dealing, are the people that are like, oh, well, if you give me some cards and let me make some money, I'll give you a tip. Well, we have no control over it. We're just facilitating what's going on. We don't determine the cards. We don't determine what the dice come up. And so that has nothing to do with, we're just doing what we're doing. But I like the people that, I don't know why this is. I like the people that will kind of give you shit the whole time when you're doing stuff. Like, you can kind of banter back and forth with them.
Like Sue from Mandalay Bay.
Yeah, like Sue from Mandalay Bay. She was so fun.
Is that who you model your dealing after?
Somewhat, a little bit. It just depends on the player, though, because I've had some players, like, you almost have to read the table a little bit to see what the table wants, if that makes sense. If the table's having fun and they're joking with you, and they want you to, you can kind of tell they want you to joke or give them a hard time, or make it fun. And then there's some that just, they are just serious, and they're there to try and make money, and that's it. Which I think there are other ways to make money, that you're going to actually maybe consistently make money. This isn't going to be a consistent money maker for you.
Unless you're counting cards.
Unless you're counting cards, which is very, very hard with a 6-card deck. Or with a 6-card deck or shoe, it'd be easy. With a 6-deck shoe, that would be extraordinarily hard to have any sort of consistency with that.
You're a 6-deck shoe.
Yes, I am.
So are tips like pooled or something, or do you specifically get whatever's tipped to you?
No, our tips are pooled between the dealers, which is a good and a bad thing. There's some nights that your table is just tipping really heavy. And that'd be nice if you got those tips while you're dealing, but then there are nights where your table just doesn't tip at all. So it's nice to have that kind of a balance. It doesn't fluctuate as much then.
Is it pooled across per table, or just every dealer
between the number of dealers, between the shift? Yeah.
So from 6 to 2 a.m., everybody that worked?
Yeah.
Even if they work less?
And it depends on the number of dealers and the hours worked. There's a tip percentage, I think, or a tip rate is how they figure it. So, and again, our casino is small. So this is, comparing to big casinos, is going to seem like child's play. But, for as small as a casino as we have, there was one night, like last Wednesday night, we made a significant amount of tips. Like, we normally average about $1,000 in tips, maybe $1,200 on a Wednesday night. And we had almost 4,000 last week.
Approximately how many ways is that getting split?
10, maybe. So it's a pretty significant amount. Yeah, pretty significant amount in tips.
Any fights?
Not recently. We have had fights though. We had a couple guys get kicked get 86 from the casino, and then they were waiting outside of the casino for one of the dealers to leave that was dealing to them when it all happened.
And that doesn't worry you at all?
Nah. If you could see me, you could see why that wouldn't concern me.
Because you don't have a punchable face?
Oh, I definitely have a punchable face. I'm just saying it doesn't concern me because
it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Yeah, it's not worth it. I've had people make a semi-seriously joke about that they're going to go pop all my tires and stuff like that.
How about any throat slashes?
No throat slashes. Just the 86-year-old grandma the other day that kind of pointed at me and gave the throat slashing signal.
Really?
No, I'm joking.
Want to take her out for dinner if she did?
Of course she would. Yeah, I don't know. That is one, saying about the 86-year-old grandma. That is one thing that is so unique about a casino is you have people from all different ages, all different walks of life that show up and sit sit down to play games. You can have a 90-year-old woman playing next to what I would say is probably a 50-year-old biker next to a 22-year-old college kid. We have priests that come in and play. I mean, or clergy, however you want to say it, religious people that just love to gamble. So it's interesting what you can see sitting at one table.
Priests?
Yeah.
The Catholic priests?
I know of priests that love to gamble.
Wearing the collar thingy?
They didn't that particular time that I saw him, but I know of one that does when he goes.
Is that allowed?
Why isn't it? I don't know why. They are allowed to drink.
They are?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had a priest growing up that drank more than I mean, he loved his beer.
They're just not allowed to.
Cool.
I suppose if you're not allowed to do that, you wouldn't need to drink and gamble.
Probably.
Now, when you say the casino 86 somebody, they killed them and put them in a shallow grave?
Actually, they have just a pit out back.
Oh, okay. That's probably more efficient.
No, 86, 86, for those of you that don't know, 86 just means kicked out of the casino, prevented from coming back into the casino, banned.
How do they do that?
Security takes them out. They're put on a list. And so when they come in to have their ID scanned, or if they're recognized, they're denied entry.
You scan everybody's ID?
Yes, everybody's ID gets scanned, comes into the casino.
Small time casino can get away with that. Couldn't do that with Vegas.
Oh, no. There's too many people coming and going, for sure.
But they could afford facial recognition software.
That's just what I was going to say. I know that the casinos in Vegas have facial recognition software. But the shocking thing about that is, did you know that there are only something like 30 some people that are on the permanently banned from Vegas casinos list? I would think it would be a lot more.
I think I heard that on 360 Vegas or something.
Yep. I think 360 Vegas podcast had that on there about somebody getting added. He was was it a magician from Mississippi or something weird like that? Obviously, he wasn't very good.
Almost seems like a challenge.
Yeah. I don't know. Breaking the law is not a cool deal.
A good story to tell.
It would be.
Ladies love the bad boys.
Yeah, it's a story you're not gonna get from me. I'm too much of a rule follower.
Yeah, I know. I've got a little story from yesterday.
What you got?
Not casino related.
Okay,
just annoys the shit out of me.
Let us have it. I want to hear this. Oh wait, does it involve me?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. Unless you were the car in front of me at the drive-thru.
No, I was not.
So I went and got food. I don't think I've ever had this happen before at the drive-thru. Maybe I have. I pull up and I can't understand the guy. And I have to ask him 5 times what he said. He has a little bit of an accent. And the whole time I'm trying to hand him my credit card to pay. And what he's saying is, the car in front of you paid. They paid for my meal.
Okay.
Which I guess that's kind of nice, except it's one of the cheapest meals I've paid for in a long time. It's like $10. And then I've got my credit card out, and I'm like, the guy's looking at me, and I'm like, well, now I got to do it, right? I got to pay for the next guy, so I'm not the dick that breaks the chain. Oh, the guy also said something like, it's been happening all day or something like that. Really? So I'm like, yeah, I'll get the next one, and it was like $20. So that in front of me basically cost me $10. So thanks for paying it forward.
So here's my thought on it. Yes.
I mean, basically the guy in front of me made my meal cost me $10 more.
Okay. True. That is true. Although here's 2 thoughts. Yes, that's one way to think about it, is that you felt like you had to pay it forward and pay for the next person in line.
I mean, I'm handing the guy my card before I even know what he's saying. So
yeah, I get that.
So I have to pull it back and be like, I'm fine.
And I'm a horrible person to say this, because you know me well enough to know that I would do exactly what you did and pay for the person behind me.
I think you would.
Yeah, I'm sure I would. But there is always that option to not, and then maybe at some point do it.
I would never on my own just do it.
You'd never on your own just do it?
No. Have you ever on your own just done it?
I have.
Really?
Yeah.
Bullshit. Look at you.
Well, but I first looked in my rearview mirror to see how many people were in the car. I'm just kidding.
Was it an attractive female? Single?
Might have been. You know, the funny thing about that is I've often thought about what you would do if you were going to be like, okay, I'm going to pay for the car behind me. And then the guy's like, you're at McDonald's, and the guy's like, okay, that'll be $112. And it'd be like, what?
So I did think that after I'm like, okay, well, I'll pay for the one behind me, I guess. And then I said, wait, how much is it? Just to make sure it wasn't some crazy amount. What's the number though where you're like, maybe not?
I'd say if it's over $30, I'd be like,
30?
Yeah.
Tightwad.
Yeah, I am. You know that.
I probably would have been like 50 or more.
Well, look at you, big spender.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just a nicer guy than I am.
I'm just a giver, Geoff.
You're just a giver. What can you say? That was very nice of you, Mike. I'm glad that you found it in your heart to pay it forward and then bitch to me.
You and the 3 other people listening to this podcast.
Yes, your mom, my mom, and the guy that's sleeping.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think we've covered everything we need to. What do you think, Mike? Are we good to go?
I'd like to talk for another hour or so.
Wait a minute. Are you switching bodies with me and want to talk all the time?
I've just got a lot to say, Geoff.
I know you do.
But we can wait till the next episode, I suppose.
Okay, well, that sounds good. Well, we want to thank everybody for listening. We are on all the social media outlets at Strip Walking, and you can also visit us at the website at stripwalking.com.
Strict walking or strip walking?
That would be Strip Walking.
Okay. That's why the website hasn't been pulling up. I've been typing it in wrong. I've been typing in strict walking.
Shut up. We hope you all have a good one.